This year's MVP conversation has been as wide open as ever. Whether your primary criteria is a team's overall success, dominant individual performance on both ends of the floor, or historically great counting stats, this season has had it all. Perhaps the name that has been the most polarizing, though, is the reigning winner Nikola Jokic. Despite playing on a Denver team that has been barraged with injuries to some of their top players, he's consistently kept them competitive through his ability to impact so many areas of the game. No performance more perfectly encompasses that than their most recent battle with the Los Angeles Clippers, where his combination of scoring, passing, offensive rebounding, and screening allowed him to completely take over the game. Entering this contest, the Clippers had the 5th best defense in the NBA, and because they started out with a lineup of two bigs, it was clear that Nikola Jokic would have to really work for buckets in the paint. He wasted no time getting himself involved in the offense, on the very first possession coming off a pin down that allowed for a very easy post entry pass, which he capitalized on by bullying his way down low to set up a jump hook. On the other end of the floor, Reggie Jackson's pass ends up in the hands of Jeff Green, who quickly outlets it to the running Aaron Gordon, leaving him and Jokic in a 2-on-1 that turns into a game of hot potato. Funny enough, this isn't even the first time we've seen these two hit each other with a series of passes that resulted in a basket. It also isn't the last time we'd see them make a play in transition, here a simple connective pass leading to an open layup for Monte Morris. Speaking of open layups, Jokic's back screen here leaves Will Barton on an island for a free 2 points. His screening is a pretty key component of Denver's offense, constantly moving and using his large frame to free up ball handlers and cutters for higher quality looks. Of course, he can also come off of screens himself and capitalize with great outside shooting. How about as a pick and roll ball handler, and staring Aaron Gordon dead in the eyes as he delivers this beautiful cross-court dime to Jeff Green, who misses. Most of the time, it's not about the end result of a play though, but rather the process that went into creating the shot. And it's kind of absurd how we've gotten used to a 7-foot center bouncing into a classic pick and roll before sending a live dribble no-look pass right down the pipe to an open shooter. Here with only 10 seconds left on the shot clock, Jokic swiftly cuts into post position where he can set up an isolation, and Bledsoe helping for even a second is enough to lead to the wide open triple. But maybe helping actually was the right play there, because as we all know, the Joker lives for these one-on-one scenarios. With just over 1 minute left in the first quarter, it's time for Jokic to take his first rest of the game. And if the rest of the season is any indication, these minutes could get brutal. In over 800 minutes with him off the floor, the Nuggets have had a net rating of negative 11.7, which is on par with some of the worst lineups in NBA history. And of course, history likes to repeat itself. The supporting players aren't the only ones at fault here though. Even after checking back in, Jokic didn't do much himself to stop the bleeding, missing 3 straight shots before finally getting a trip to the line. He made the first free throw, but on the second, he followed his own miss, and after a couple of tips, the ball landed in the hands of Davon Reed for an easy push shot. The Jokic and Gordon transition connection continues here with a Larry Bird-esque touch pass that leads to a foul, and again, just 50% at the line. On this play, Jokic is going to serve as a classic roll man, and after catching the ball, he goes to this little hook shot that marks his first made field goal of the entire second quarter, after 7 minutes of play. That puts Denver down 12 going into the half. Jokic at this point is just 5 of 10 from the field for 12 points with only 2 rebounds and 3 assists. Needless to say, there's some work to be done. On the very first offensive possession of the second half, Jokic steps right into a 3-pointer, knocking it down and showing that he'll likely be a bit more aggressive to chip into this lead. No matter what they do on the offensive end though, they just can't stop the Clippers from scoring, and after the lead reaches 14, Denver takes a timeout. It's during this break that it felt like a switch was flipped. The Nuggets would come out a completely different team. Thereafter, the timeout set was a classic pick and roll with Jokic as the ball handler, and another one on the next play that resulted in a goaltending call. After a pair of successful defensive trips, Jokic spots up for yet another 3, and now with only an 8-point deficit, the Joker was going to do anything and everything possible to get his team the lead, and completely take over this game. He starts this play as the screener, and after that action fizzles out, he gets the ball and instantly attacks off the catch for an easy layup. These quick attacks off the catch are huge after establishing that outside threat, easily blowing by his man here before shedding another defender with this deceleration. Ty Lue approves, and so do the fans.
And here they start. Right now you hear those MVP chants, 22.
This next play is pretty chaotic. Gordon misses the corner three, and Jokic grabs the offensive rebound. He misses the putback, but recovers his own miss and finishes while tripping over the fallen Justice Winslow, and he's irate. He gets hit with a technical foul, and Michael Malone potentially saves him from getting ejected from the game entirely. After 4 made bonus free throws, Jokic hits the bench for his final rest of the game, having scored 17 third-quarter points. During these minutes with him off the floor, the Nuggets did a great job at maintaining the lead he created, but with just 7.5 minutes left, it was time for his return. Right away he gets involved in a give and go and makes a beautiful pass to the cutting Reed, then does the same on the very next play with Morris, although he can't quite finish. It's not truly a Denver Nuggets game without Nikola Jokic assisting on at least one dribble handoff. It's this constant movement and screening that allows him to be the focal point of the entire offense without pounding the ball into the floor. And here the threat of his outside shot opens up a free 2 points for the driving Morris. That outside threat continues to open up other scoring opportunities, here forcing his man to close out hard before putting it on the deck and drawing a foul. This happens over and over again, this time getting all the way to the rim for the and one. He continues to draw fouls while in attack mode down low, and as long as he's hitting his free throws, the offense keeps rolling. Now down 2 with just 50 seconds left, Jokic rejects the pick and roll to go right at Zubac's downhill, and ties the game with this effortless spinning hook shot. However, the Clippers continue to score at will, so they're right back where they started. This time Jokic faking the dribble handoff into a wide open backdoor cut for Will Barton, who takes it all the way to the rack. After a huge defensive stop, Denver now has 3 seconds to get a shot up, and everyone in the arena knew exactly who the ball was going to.
Corner. They go to Jokic. He fires and he misses everything.
We've got overtime. Jokic remains in constant attack mode. Here he can't get the floater to fall, but once again recovers his own miss and finishes the putback. That activity and aggression around the rim applies a ton of pressure to the defense and continues to earn him trips to the line. Still, they can't seem to take control of the game. And now with a 3-point deficit, the ball is in Jokic's hands with his back to the basket. He draws the double and makes the correct read, which leads to a wide open triple, and an air ball leads to yet another putback by the big man. This time it's on the defensive end where Jokic makes a huge play, reading this bounce pass to the roll man perfectly and kicking off a fast break that results in 2 more points. I'm not quite sure what happened here, but Jokic and Zubac seemingly start wrestling near midcourt to start this play, which ends up with Jokic barreling to the rim for some more phenomenal footwork, and the 3-point play. They still can't stop the Clippers from scoring on the other end though, which leaves them with possession and a tie game. Jokic gets the ball on the wing with just 10 seconds left, and they clear an entire side of the floor for him to work in isolation. For obvious reasons, Los Angeles wants to take the ball out of his hands, so they fully commit to the double team, and you know the rest.
He finds Gordon. Gordon for 3. Yes!
This is what happens when you send multiple defenders at one of the best passers in league history. Nikola Jokic is completely breaking basketball. Like I said earlier, during that third quarter is when the switch was flipped, and when the reigning MVP started to completely take over the game, which is easy to see when looking at the Nuggets' offensive numbers. In the first half, they had an offensive rating of 111.1 with Jokic on the floor, which is slightly above average, but nothing in comparison to their second half rating of 147.2. Per my personal tracking, whether it was as a scorer, playmaker, or screener, in 41 minutes of play he was directly involved in 81 of his team's points. Because the Nuggets scored 128 in those minutes, that makes over 63% of the point total that he was directly involved in while on the floor. 49 points, 14 rebounds, and 10 assists is already enough to make anyone's jaw drop, but it's the dominant fashion and ability to take over the game in the second half that truly made this performance so special, and showcased just what the Joker is capable of.